Whoops. Let's
go ahead and start.
It is. Ready? Welcome everyone to the 2021 State of the City. We are really excited to have this event tonight and really thank all of our staff for all the hard work it has taken to get us here. And we cannot wait for this to be a live and in-person event next year in 2022. I think we're going to be saying that a lot in 2021. And before I turn it over to our city manager, David Morgan, I want to say that we're hopeful that this event tonight can be an interactive event and not just one where we're delivering information to you, but where you can ask questions and participate in the event as we go along. And so we'll talk to you about how you can submit questions and interact, but I'll turn it over to David Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And so first and foremost, what we want to let you know about is that there are opportunities to win prizes throughout the night. So you need to be on the call or on the virtual meeting, logged in or checked in through, make sure you either like it through Facebook live video or make sure you're logged into the Zoom. You must be present to win, so make sure you stay through the whole time. We'll be covering a lot of different topics. You can see that here on the screen. We will obviously be talking about the COVID pandemic. We want to update you on things happening in and around town, including downtown, economic development, discussing our financial position, as well as discussing some of our service areas. You can see that there: electric, water, wastewater, solid waste, and transportation. We also, after the mayor and I do a presentation, we will also then have some of our departments providing more detailed presentations, and we look forward to sharing that with you. And then we'll do a live Q&A session here at the end. So with that, I'll hand it back over to the mayor.
All right, here's how we would like for you to interact with us this evening. First of all, you can post questions in the Zoom chat or in a Facebook comment, and staff will be taking those and handing them off to David and I at the end of our presentation. You can email PIO, Public Information Officer, at georgetown.org, PIO at georgetown.org, or you can even text us at 512-641-4400. And we'll answer those questions at the end of our presentation today. All right, let's start off by talking about 2020 in hindsight and what is to come in 2021. As you know, as everyone knows, 2020 was a year of great trials, for all of us, and it required a ton of flexibility, leadership, and patience. And we expect that we'll still need those qualities through 2021. When the global pandemic hit in March of 2020, it rocked all of us, everyone in this community, everyone on your city staff, and all of your elected officials were scrambling, just like you were, to figure out how we were going to make it through this difficult time. But as 2021 has started, we've got the vaccine coming out, and we're really excited about that. And hopefully it's going to get us back to normal, or at least a new normal. I appreciate your city council's leadership.
I can't share because I don't have that
your
presentation.
help, and your city staff's commitment to keeping us safe and to moving us forward with the work of the city. I can tell you in no uncertain terms that your city is financially strong, that we're continuing to thrive and continue to grow throughout this difficult time, and still working to keep everyone safe as well. Financially, we budgeted very conservatively for this coming year, but we intend to expect strong revenue, but we are prepared for anything that comes our way. In 2020, we saw great sales tax revenue and development growth continue despite what was going on with the pandemic. We're off to another good start for 2021 in those areas as well. We're going to need to continue to work together as a community to get through this time, though. We know that you have been struggling and striving to make it through this pandemic, and we appreciate all of your efforts, and we're doing everything on our side. So I'm going to pass it off to David Morgan, who's going to talk some more about the work that the city did in 2020 in light of the COVID pandemic.
Well, during the pandemic, as I know all of you have experienced, it's very hard to set goals because you don't know what the future is going to hold. There's definitely a level of uncertainty. And so we really made sure that we focused on priorities. Our priority was to keep our employees, to keep the community as safe as possible, at the same time while providing as many services as possible. And so you can see here on this slide the number of ways in which we've done that. I'm really thankful for our staff for being flexible throughout the year. Examples of that include the library moving to curbside service, to home delivery, and back to curbside, to opening, having a delivery or grab and go service. Our Parks and Recreation Department has obviously they've done a ton of work to modify the different services, make the rec center safe. And for a time we had to close the rec center, and our staff was still active. In fact, what they were doing was they were providing a daycare facility for our employees, so that folks in the police department, the fire department, other service areas like our utilities could still make sure that they could be at work and be fully engaged in making sure we're providing continuity of services. We also worked to make sure that we modified our events. So we had a virtual event for Red Poppy Festival. We had the virtual lighting of the square. We worked on moving our boards, commissions, meetings online. We also worked to add resources quickly. And so really appreciative of the overall business support, small business support that the county's been able to provide through federal funding. But we were actually partnered with the chamber right early on during the pandemic and provided local grants. And we've also done things in downtown, like provided opportunities for expanded outdoor dining. And we've also dedicated up to $1 million for utility bill assistance for people who are experiencing employment issues and other things during the pandemic as well. I would say that our public safety staff have been active, not only making sure that they're keeping safe and making sure that we can respond to EMS calls, fire calls, public safety calls, but our firefighters have been out doing testing. I know that they've been in nursing homes doing testing, as well as working with the county on that as well. And then we also worked to just help encourage each other during this time. We started a GTX Cares campaign, and hopefully you've seen, if you've been downtown, seen banners or seen window decals about Poppy Strong and other slogans. So take a look at that. Follow the hashtags on social media to see COVID-19 updates as well. And we will continue to make sure we promote safety and safeguard that as we continue on through this pandemic and through just the uncertainty that we still find ourselves in. Mayor. Oh,
All
sorry
right.
about that.
So,
Let me kick it off to you, back to you, Mayor, to talk about
no
looking
problem.
at 2021.
So continuing on kind of with our COVID discussion, 2021, I mean, the word of the year is going to be vaccine. As you all know, I can tell you that the vaccine is being administered in Georgetown, Texas. We are hoping that it's going to continue to flow smoothly, but at greater volumes. As you may know, the state and the health district have the lead in acquiring and administering and distributing the vaccine, but we're working closely with all of your other elected officials at the state, county, and health district level. And we appreciate all the efforts they've made. I realize we have heard the frustration of our citizens that they want the vaccine, they want it faster. And as I recall, when the pandemic first started, folks were kind of saying the same thing about testing. And we had difficulty getting testing centers going and getting reliability and speed of testing. And so we're seeing that same kind of difficulty with the vaccine rollout, but we're hoping that that will go smoother as we move forward, and that will allow us to move back into more of our normal routines. But we do ask you to be continually vigilant in masking and having social distancing so that we don't have any outbreaks in the community and that we can keep our people safe. We still have a COVID testing center over here by the library and City Hall, and you can go to the Curative Testing Center and get tested. And we hope to have vaccine distribution throughout the city very quickly. But we encourage you to still listen to your state leadership, county leadership in regards to their rules. And we're going to continue to follow those and to push that information out to you as soon as we can. In the meantime, we're doing everything we can as a city to keep you plugged into your city and your city government. We have reopened council chambers for our council meetings. All the social distancing safety measures are in place. So if you would like to attend council meetings live and in person, please do so. But we're also going to continue to offer virtual meetings, and you can make public comment through virtual meetings as well, just like you could if you were here in council chambers. We've been doing live town halls on Facebook like this one and in different districts of the city. We've been pushing out digital surveys. And most of all, if you've got a question or a concern, you can always call your city, email your city, and I promise you that we will be extremely responsive. All right, David, back to you.
One of the things we wanted to talk about related to the state of the city, and it's something that I know has dominated conversations over a number of years, is the growth that we're continuing to see in Georgetown. And while we thought the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic may affect our growth, we haven't seen that at all. In fact, we've continued to see accelerated growth in Georgetown. The last 5 years, we've been one of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the country, over 50,000 in population. Our current estimate is at 70,000. We'll get the updated estimate when the official 2020 census numbers come in. But we're not alone in seeing that growth. We've seen it throughout Central Texas and throughout Williamson County. In fact, sorry if this scares you a little bit, but this is just an understanding of where we're heading and where people estimate. It's estimated that the population in Williamson County will grow by 195% by 2045, reaching a population of 1.4 million. And so I think what's important for us to think about is how do we prepare for that and how do we deal with that? In terms of housing starts, this last year we saw a record number of housing starts in fiscal year 20 with nearly 1,900 housing starts. And actually it's a fourth consecutive year we hit a record for new housing starts. Just to give you a sense of perspective of how that compares with previous years, we haven't seen, like I said, it's been a record year. In the first 3 months of this year, of this FY21, we've seen 682 new residential permits. And if you look back, that is more than what was experienced in the full year of 2017 or any year before that. And so just gives you a perspective of the type of growth that we're seeing today. We're seeing that in our city services as well, and in our demands on city services. So to give you some examples of that, we actually have seen fire and EMS calls grow by 25% since 2016. And we've seen police calls grow by 42% since 2016. So you can see that it will continue to be something that definitely dominates our discussion and something we focus on significantly in order to be able to manage that as we experience this growth. And with that, the mayor will actually talk about that on the next slide.
Yes, as David said, obviously we've had a lot more demand on our city services. So how are we handling that? Well, we're investing in public safety. There's obviously a large national debate going on about public safety and funding of public safety. And I can tell you that in Georgetown, Texas, we are investing in public safety. We will open fire stations 6 and 7 on the east and west sides of town. We added 10 staff members to staff those fire stations. And again, those folks serve as both your firefighters and your EMS. So we added 10 new folks in those departments. We are in the process of starting a police training facility, another one attached to the existing facility on DB Wood. That's kind of a jewel of our community. And we added 2 new patrol positions in our police department this year. Police department and Chief Nero, and he's going to talk about this a little bit later, but has really taken a lead, and they've started something called the Community Initiative that involves stakeholders from every aspect of our community to bring them together to have conversations about policing in Georgetown, Texas, so that we can get out ahead of and prevent some of the problems that we all saw throughout the country in 2020. Obviously, development continues to occur in Georgetown, Texas, and we realize that that's a city service that we need to maintain at a level that developers and the community expect. So we added 8 new positions in our planning and inspections departments to help manage that increased workload because of all this growth. And we were able to do this because of the continued growth throughout 2020. We've also invested in utilities and transportation, and we're going to talk about those in more detail later, but you've seen us make major investments in water and wastewater, and we've got more investments coming in our transportation facilities as well. But we've also just invested in some quality of life features here in Georgetown. In 2020, we had murals put on City Hall and on Gus's Drugs. We built some new sidewalks on 7th Street. We opened 2 new parks, Golden Bear Park and San Gabriel Park. And we also completed the Katie's Crossing Trail. In 2021, we've got some more awesome murals coming, so be on the lookout for those. And we're going to begin construction on the South San Gabriel River Trail at Wolf Crossing below that new beautiful development. We're not sure, we want to be real honest with you, we're not sure what our public events are going to look like in 2021. Obviously, everyone in this community would love to see Poppy Fest happen as it does every single year. But we just don't know where we're going to be from a virus standpoint at that time. We're going to let you know as soon as possible. And if that can't occur how it normally occurs, we're going to find creative ways to celebrate in this community. And again, the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we're doing is, despite what's going on, we want to get your feedback as to what's going on in this community. We're pushing out a resident satisfaction survey. The results of that should be out in the fall or next month. We're currently undergoing 2 small area plans in the TRG and San Jose neighborhood that we need a lot of input from not just folks in those neighborhoods, but folks from the entire community. You're going to see work happening here at the City Center campus. And then another big one is we've got our Parks Master Plan that we're going to be working on throughout 2021. And so we know that you have opinions on those issues, and we would love to have you engage with us as we go through those processes. So let's talk a little bit about downtown. And if you talk about quality of life in Georgetown, Texas, you can't skip downtown, because that's where most of us spend our free time and have our entertainment. And we've seen an amazing investment already in the first quarter of 2021. There's been $3.1 million invested in our downtown. Tejas Meat Market is opened. Mikey V's Tacos. District 6 will be opening soon. City Post will be opening soon. And another great retail location, Foundry 42, opened recently. In 2020, we had $3.3 million invested in downtown. And I think that does not need to go unnoticed, that in the middle of a pandemic, when other cities were seeing their bars, restaurants, and shops closed, we saw $3.3 million invested in downtown, and new businesses started, such as the Baked Bear, to Having to Hold, Cork Wine Bar, Watkins Insurance, Mango Tango, Karina's Bridal Shop, Primadora, Fuego Latino Gastropub, Black Sugar Cafe, Golden Rule, Wag Heaven, and Lamppost Coffee expanded. And I think what's really, really important to note about that is it's a great mix of different uses. It's not all bars, not all restaurants, not all shops, but a great mix of new businesses opening on the square that will have both a daytime economy and a nighttime economy, so that folks are utilizing that great asset that we have to its maximum capacity. Economic development. The square was certainly not the only area that saw investment in 2020. In fiscal year 2020, you saw economic development projects totaling $68 million that brought over 700 jobs to this community. Some highlighted major projects from 2020. The Texas Speed Company, we not only retained that company in Georgetown, but helped them expand with the speculative industrial development. We had incentives of about $1.2 million, and we helped them partner with Titan Development, that we'll talk about a little bit later, on a major development that's going to have a huge impact on this community. Citigroup, our data center, we retained our largest electric user to help stabilize our electric fund and incentivize them to expand their activity here in Georgetown, and they hit that expansion rate ahead of schedule. One that I'm sure you're all very aware of and very excited about, Costco. Costco is coming to Georgetown. David Morgan promises me it's probably going to open anytime now. So you can call his office to see when that's going to happen. But no, it's coming as soon as possible. They are moving as quickly as they can. We had an incentive package that made sure that Costco was going to be inside Georgetown city limits and not just outside our city limits, so that we can experience that sales tax revenue. And so it's a little bit closer for us to enjoy that great company. They will be open by, at the very latest, December of 2024, but we're hopeful that they can get that open even faster. Champion Site Prep. Champion Site Prep was a company that had briefly moved out of the city limits, but we were able to bring them back into Georgetown, and that brought back 200 jobs into Georgetown, and we have helped them expand, and they're going to add another 75 jobs. So that's 275 jobs that was brought back to this community through our economic development team. They'll have broken ground already, and they're going to be fully open this year in 2021. CV Linens is another group that is going to build a distribution warehouse at Longhorn Junction. Ascension Seton, this is very big news. Seton recently purchased land in the new Wolf Lakes development that will be coming up. It's already started and will start to take shape here in 2021, and they're building a medical office complex there. T. Morales is a contractor that's relocated their offices to Georgetown. And then some other projects we want to mention: River Place, Heritage Court, the Watkins Building, which is downtown, the Palace Theater Smith Education Building, also in the downtown area. Cedro Crossing opened its first offices. Holt Cat opened, and Academy opened. And it's a pretty amazing year when Holt Cat and Academy aren't at the top of your economic development list, but we're really glad to have those folks in the community and contributing to it. 2021 coming up. As I said, Titan North Park 35 is Georgetown's first master plan Class A industrial park. And I promise you that this is something that you'll be seeing and talking about for decades to come in this community. They've invested $15 million in capital already to improve Airport Road, and $28 million for phase one of their construction. They've got 150 acres at I-35 and 130. The first two phases are 150,000 square foot buildings with a third building already planned. And Texas Speed, as we said, is one of those companies that we were able to retain and put into that Class A industrial park. We mentioned Champion Site Prep already. Texas Outdoor Power is going to be constructing a new 225,000 square foot building for its expansion with a pad site for a second building. And then another area that you're going to see your city working on very diligently this year and in the years to come is encouraging and recruiting retail in our southeast quadrant. We realize that we need to get some commercial development going in the southeast corridor, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We've had a lot of residential growth over there, but we want to make sure that folks in that area have nearby commercial and retail experiences that they can take advantage of and that will help our transportation network, and it will obviously help our sales tax revenue. All right, David, back to you for our financial position.
Thank you, Mayor. So I am pleased to share that we are in very strong financial position and fortunate to be so. Obviously, we had concerns related to the pandemic and what that might do from a revenue standpoint and from an overall economic health. But I'm pleased to share that we ended fiscal year 20 very strong. We had expected to have an increase of sales tax of 7% over the previous year. We actually experienced an increase of 15.2% over the previous year, over fiscal year 2019. And that continues the trend that we've seen. In fact, if you look at our sales tax has increased by 40% over the last 3 years. So you've seen significant economic growth. We also exceeded our development revenue that was expected by 46%. And so we've continued to see the strong home building market. Overall, we exceeded our reserves in our general fund, which is the main fund of the city that funds things like police, fire, and those in parks and recreation. We exceeded our budget reserves by $7.5 million. And in fact, from an expenditure perspective, we finished all major funds finished below budget expenses. And I think that, I'm really, really pleased with our staff for managing through this difficult time, making sure that we are conservative in our forecasting efforts to have us be in a very strong position. We are overall, from a cost of service, we're the third lowest cost of service in Central Texas of any city over, I believe, 20,000 in population. And then we continue to maintain a very high bond rating. So we have a bond rating for general obligation debt by S&P of a AA+, so that's just one below AAA. And then for our utility revenue bonds, which are both our water and our electric utility combined, it's a AA-, which is also very strong. If you look at towards the budget and city operations in fiscal year 2021, the council approved a budget that was actually 10% lower than fiscal year 20. The primary reason for that is related to capital project expenditures. We had some large capital projects that were coming through the pipeline in fiscal year 20, but 2021 is a little lower. And the council was able to decrease the tax rate. So we have the lowest tax rate in Central Texas at 41.8 cents. And then we actually, because we saw a decreased valuation overall of the average home and a decrease in the tax rate, the average home saw a lowering of property tax being paid by $34. You can see we have a link on our website to our budget, which has all sorts of detail. We encourage you to look at that so that you can review it yourself, and we're ready to be able to answer questions that you might have. And so far in 2021, we've collected $6.3 million in sales tax, and that's just for the months of October and November. So we received that information a little delayed from the state. And that basically equates to a 12.3 increase over percent increase over 2020 fiscal year 2020. So you're seeing a very strong trend here, and we're pleased with the continued strong economic growth. Also in 2021, we saw a new mayor elected. So Mayor Schroeder, which we appreciate him being here for the state of the city, as well as a new council member, Councilmember Hood, and then Council Member Johnrow returning as well. We've been working as an organization to be a performance-based organization and use data and metrics to be able to showcase that. We're actually going to be launching a public dashboard later this year so that you can track our progress in areas such as planning and development and our other operational areas that we have throughout the city. And so we look forward to sharing that information with you and showing how we're being good stewards of tax dollars. As it relates to our utilities, both electric and water and wastewater, I'd like to provide a few updates to you from an electric standpoint. Those of you who've been tracking know we've been on a very aggressive plan to improve the overall performance, financial performance of our electric utility. That has included really changing the structure of our utilities and having a new general manager of electric dedicated for electric. We've reformatted our advisory board. So we have advisory boards both on the electric side and water side with specific expertise in those fields. They've been a tremendous help for us. We also hired Shell Energy to help us manage our complex energy portfolio. We've sold unnecessary assets to be able to bring and improve our cash position, and we've lowered overall operating costs in the electric utility. What we've seen is, as a result, is we've ended fiscal year with reserves at $28.4 million. And just to give you a comparison of how much that's improved, we actually had reserves in fiscal year 2018 below $2 million. So we've seen a significant increase in our reserve levels. That's due to, I think, the changes that we made, as well as obviously the PCA changes, rate changes that we've had to make as well. On the water wastewater side, we've been very focused. In addition to some reorganization and talking about the advisory board, we've also been on a very aggressive plan to make capital improvements to increase our capacity to address growth, and specifically increase our capacity for water treatment. From a water perspective, we have a lot of access to water. Our challenge that we have in the near term is making sure that we can treat enough water during the very high demand period of time that we have.
101 was instead of.
Sorry about that. That's just COVID. We have interruptions like that with virtual meetings, so we'll just keep going. But the challenge that we have in the summer months is that we have such a demand for water because people are trying to keep their grass green. Totally understand. Keep trees in healthy condition. And so we need to make sure that we have enough capacity to be able to treat that water on a daily basis. And so you can see here a number of projects that we're working on to quickly increase our capacity, as well as be able to make key wastewater improvements as well. And we'll also after we are working on actually hiring a new water services director. Our previous director retired after 18 years of service with the city of Georgetown, Glenn DeShawn. We are sad to see him go. I know he's still going to be connected in with our community, but we're currently looking for new leadership in that area as well. We are happy to announce that we were able to, starting January 1, to lower our electric rates. So we're able to lower them by 1 cent per kilowatt hour. That's a savings of approximately $10 per month for the average customer. I can tell you that we are also anticipate additional savings. We do have a contract that will be coming off in 2021, which will provide savings. And I can tell you that our elected officials and our city staff are very focused to make sure that our electric utility is centered around making sure that we have reliable and a safe utility at competitive rates, and we'll continue to work on that. So our hope is to continue lower rates, and you'll see that in the near future. From a water wastewater standpoint, like I mentioned, that we experienced in 2020, but we also are working towards in 2021, significant capital investment on water and wastewater treatment. So you can see here that we're investing between those two over $25 million in improvements just in 2021 to deal with the growth that we've been talking about. Here's a chart that shows you exactly what I was talking about related to capacity. So you can see here the maximum production that we can do on a daily basis. And then you can see how we have our production, it changes over the year. And you can see in the summer months, really it's all centered around outdoor usage. And so we obviously are working to make sure we can increase capacity. We also know that a part of that, though, is making sure that we encourage appropriate levels of conservation. And so we'll be continuing to encourage active conservation and making sure that you're targeting the water and water usage where it's needed the most and a limited basis. We also work through a water rate study. That's something that we do every 3 years. Basically, the water rate study is really looking at how we make sure that we are covering the cost to deliver water. That's infrastructure as well as operational cost, making sure that we have a good conservation plan. And so we hired New Gen Strategies to work through that process. And through that, we found that we needed to go ahead and make sure we had better equity between rate classes. So looking at residential rate versus commercial rate, and ultimately needed to move forward and implement an increase in rates for the base rate. So we saw starting in January 1 an increase to the base rate of $1.50 for the base rate on the average customer. And then we also have an increase in the usage, the tiered structure in terms of how water usage occurs. In addition, though, it's important to know that we also have water and wastewater impact fees. Those are paid for by development. That allows for us to not only rely on ratepayers, our customers, to be able to pay for capital expenditures, but it also allows for us to use for the development, for new development, to help pay for that infrastructure as well. Just to give you a sense of scale, in 2020, we saw $28 million of water and wastewater impact fees to be able to apply towards these large capital projects that we've been talking about. As it relates to solid waste, council approved an increase of $1.37 for residential customers for our solid waste rates. This was to cover an increase to our contract with TDS, Texas Disposal System. It's also to pay for an expansion of our transfer station to be able to manage the growth that we've seen and also have some environmental compliance. And then also to expand our household hazardous waste program. We're going to continue to work to meet the significant demand that we're seeing. And we'll have more information on that in the breakout meetings. Wanted to show you, I mentioned before that we're the third lowest cost in Central Texas when comparing cities. And you can see here then how your bills broke down on a monthly basis. You can see here that for an average user, and this is all for average users, that you can see here the largest portion of your bill is your electric usage, and then the second largest is property tax. And then you can see how the other charges apply. We just thought it'd be helpful for you to be able to see that. This is showing the chart that shows where we stack up and where the different rates are. This information is available online. And then we also wanted to show you how our property tax rate matches up to other cities. And you can see here that we are the lowest in Central Texas. All right, now I'd like to hand it over to Mayor Schroeder to talk about transportation.
Thank you, David. When we talk about growth in our community, one of those points at which we all experience the difficulties of growth is obviously in transportation and in traffic. And so that is one of the main focuses of the city and of your council is to deal with these traffic issues. And that means working on our transportation network. In 2020, you saw some major projects completed, the Southwest Bypass that goes through the quarry and all the way up to Highway 29 at this point. It was opened up. Northwest Boulevard was started. The Rivery Boulevard extension was completed. Southwest Boulevard was completed. We completed a nice project at 8th and MLK, a parking lot to give us more parking in our downtown area. Pedestrian crosswalks downtown and in Sun City. We've got our bicycle master plan is being worked on diligently. And we did a lot of street maintenance work, 48 lane miles of maintenance on 120 different streets in 6 different neighborhoods was completed in 2020. And those were funded by the quarter-cent sales tax dedicated for street maintenance. In 2021, you're going to see a major mobility bond that we hope to bring before the voters in May. Council is in the process of discussing that mobility bond in detail. We had a great committee of citizens, volunteers, that took a hard look at all the different projects that needed to be done in Georgetown, Texas, and helped us distill those down to a set of projects that is something that we can afford and something that we can accomplish. And so if you listen to your last council meeting this past Tuesday, you saw that there's a discussion about a $117 million bond that could be completed over a 7-year period. with just a 3-cent tax increase. There were a bunch of different projects listed on there. We're going to be talking about that one more time at our next council meeting, and we would encourage you to sign up to speak, both in the workshop and in council, and let us know what your opinion are on those projects. We did a great job of getting input on the front end when that list of projects was created. But now it's kind of at the end of the line, and we want to hear from you if you have opinions on those projects. We are still working on finishing up our 2008 and 2015 road bond projects. The widening of DB Wood, some work on 1460 and 29 were all results of the 2008 bond project. The 2015 bond project has some work on Leander Road and the Northwest Boulevard Bridge, the Rivery Boulevard extensions we mentioned before. The Southwest Bypass and Southwestern Boulevard are all results of that 2015 bond project. So you can see that your city has, when we have issued bonds, we have completed the work that we promised we were going to complete. And that work has an impact on our transportation network, and we can all move around better because of that. In 2021, you're also going to see a very, very important discussion occur in this community. And it's going to be one that is going to have a major impact on us going forward. We are in the process of discussing and potentially implementing transportation impact fees. And for those of you that aren't aware of what these are, this is a mechanism to recover infrastructure costs required to serve future development. The message we have heard loud and clear from this community is that we want new growth to pay for itself. And the way that we can do that is we can implement traffic impact fees that require all new development to pay the cost of its impact on our transportation network. That process is going on right now, and we hope to be able to use the fees that we collect from those traffic impact fees to make future improvements on our transportation network. So I'd encourage you to pay very close attention to that conversation, but please know that that's a discussion that began because we heard from our citizens that was their desire, that new growth pay for itself, and we're going to try to fulfill that promise to you. All right, back to David.
Thank you, Mayor. And now it is time to head to our departmental booths to be able to hear about a little more detail about some specific topics. Before I do that, I just want to remind you, though, that we are going to be drawing door prizes, and you've got here we go. We've got several different things. We have a city swag bag that's going to be coming with these prizes. You're going to be able to win things like an annual pass to Gary Park. And then the grand prize, which I'll announce at the very end, is a 1-year family membership to the rec center. So please stay tuned, and we will go ahead and in order to be able to participate and enter into that, you either need to be logged into our Zoom, or make sure, if you're watching on Facebook, to like our Facebook post, and we'll be pulling your names as we announce each one after each booth. So now I will go ahead, and then after that, we'll have a Q&A, and then at the end of the Q&A, then I will announce the grand prize winner. So Q&A after this. Remember that you can post questions on Facebook in the chat section, or you can email pio@georgetown.org, or you can text to 512-641 4404. So now we will go ahead and transition and pass it off to planning.
Good evening. My name is Nat Wagner. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Georgetown. And I'm here tonight to share the work of the city's development team, and in particular, that of our downtown historic planner, Britton Bostick. Britton can't be here tonight. She's administering the Historic and Architectural Review Commission as part of the development review process. So I get the opportunity to chat with you about our work in downtown and historic planning. As the Long Range Planning Manager, I get to work with city staff and residents on the future of Georgetown, but I also get to work on celebrating our past. When people talk about our small town charm, they're talking about the thriving downtown and the surrounding neighborhoods. When we have visitors from all over the world come to see our most beautiful town square, the red poppies in Old Town. They also get to meet some of the friendliest people in Texas. We have a lot to celebrate in Georgetown. Did you know that we have 2 local historic districts, 4 national registered historic districts, and more than 1,400 historic resources? Within our historic districts, we have buildings that span more than 150 years of architectural styles and that use a broad palette of materials from local limestone, cut in quarries here locally, to cast iron columns crafted all the way from the Midwest. The variety of styles and materials, which span centuries on our beautiful square, are some of the reasons why our historic districts are so unique and so loved. One of the ways we promote the historic character of Georgetown is with the design guidelines for our historic districts. These guidelines provide direction for new construction and change the exterior of existing buildings so that buildings we love today can be loved long into the future. This past, we began a project to update those design guidelines. And this fall, we hosted a virtual open house, and we asked the community to weigh in on what does it mean to protect these resources in the future to help us craft this design guidelines update. More than 100 people participated in that virtual open house and survey and gave great feedback that we're working to incorporate into this update. We expect to have that ready for you to review in April, and we'd ask you to stay tuned and participate in that project. Sharing stories is a really important thing that we do as a community, and when we share those stories, it helps us connect, even virtually. So last year in May, when we started planning for the Preservation Month activities, Britton created a series of live webinars about sharing the history of Georgetown. Those things range from parades on the square to the impact of the railroad. What started as a way to virtually celebrate Preservation Month continues today as a partnership with our award-winning public library. And you can now watch Tuesday Talks with Britton Bostick and Ann Evans the first Thursday of the month from noon to 1. We have one coming up February 2nd, so tune in to watch that. Britton and Ann will share with you historic photos and maps of what Georgetown was like in the past and how we get to admire some of the buildings that have such a history today on the square. Both the live webinar link and the recorded videos are available at historic.georgetown.org. Thanks a lot to our communications team. You can always watch those talks live on the city's Facebook page on Tuesday at noon. And we're grateful to the Special Collections at Southwestern, the Williamson County Museum, and Preservation Georgetown for collaborating with us on a lot of these storytelling. Hope you visit us at historic.georgetown.org. We're always happy to connect with you by email. And on our website are more information about Tuesday Talks, or you can learn about the Design Guidelines Update, which we'll be wrapping up this spring. And if there's any more information we can provide for you, please feel free to reach out to us.
All right, thank you, Nat. I'm Susan Watkins, the city's housing coordinator in the planning department, and I have the privilege of doing work that supports many of the places that Georgetown residents call home. As our mayor, Josh Schroeder, often says, neighborhoods are the heart of the community. And I'm going to share some of the work that we're doing in partnership with a few of our neighborhoods through small area planning. I'm trying to advance the slides here. And so small area plans are developed for neighborhoods that have unique characteristics that may have important historical associations or need specific solutions. We've created small area plans for our downtown and for Williams Drive between Austin Avenue and Lakeway Drive. And our goal is to create small area plans in partnership with residents so that the plans can successfully address the neighborhood's needs and concerns. So over the past few months, you're probably familiar with some of our historic neighborhoods, as Nat just mentioned, but you may not be familiar with some important historic neighborhoods that the planning department has had the opportunity to partner with through a small area planning process. The council has budgeted funds for the planning process with the Track Ridge Grasshopper, or TRG, and San Jose neighborhoods because both neighborhoods represent a unique part of Georgetown's history. and have been home to multiple generations of the same families and are recently experiencing a lot of change. Are you guys see my slides? They're not dating. Okay, I'm going to pull up the slides really quickly again here. Let's see, 1 second. Is that showing?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, great. So these are some of the historic neighborhoods that we're working with. They're just adjacent to our downtown and his Old Town overlays. In the blue is the TRG neighborhood, and in the green is the San Jose neighborhood. And council recently budgeted funds for the planning process with the Chalk Ridge Grasshopper and San Jose neighborhoods, because both neighborhoods represent a unique part of our history and have been home to multiple generations of the same families. And they're recently experiencing a lot of change. Over the past few months, we've spent time in and gotten to know both of the neighborhoods and what make them special. And these are two maps here, closer in maps of both the neighborhoods. And so the Chalk Ridge Grasshopper neighborhood has historically been home to Georgetown's African-American community for more than 150 years. The TRG neighborhood has also included businesses, schools, social organizations, and some of the oldest church congregations in Williamson County. Some families have resided here for several generations, and many notable community members have called TRG home. This historic neighborhood is close to the downtown and part of the center of Georgetown. And as our downtown continues to grow and increase in popularity, the TRG has experienced growth pressures as well. We've been working with residents to identify what those pressures are and how we can guide future change in this area. The San Jose neighborhood has been home to Georgetown's Mexican-American families since the early 1940s. This neighborhood also has families that have lived here for several generations and served at the national, state, and local level, either in military and in civic service. That proud legacy of service and longtime families contributes to a small but special neighborhood that's just south of our Old Town Historic District. Old Town's popularity expands beyond the historic district boundaries, and the San Jose neighborhood is also experiencing growth pressures. We've been working with San Jose residents to understand what their needs are and concerns and how we can celebrate their legacy in Georgetown. So as we move forward with this small area planning process, we're excited to be able to work directly with residents of both of these neighborhoods to highlight their unique cultural legacies and explore ways to guide future change. And for more information, you can go to 2030.georgetown.org. There's a small sidebar where it says neighborhood plans, and you can click on that and find out more information. So that's it for our presentation. Now we're going to announce our first winner. And that is Michelle Broderick, who entered the drawing via Facebook Live. You've won a gift bag of Georgetown goodies from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, along with a one-year pass to Gary Park. Stop by City Hall during regular business hours and bring your ID to claim your prize. Congratulations, and thanks for participating. And now we'll turn it over to our Public Works Department.
Hey, Ray, you're on mute. So hold on just a second. Ray Miller, you are on mute. We are obviously having a few COVID technical difficulties. We will just bear with us. Our public works staff will rejoin us in just a second.
go up to the podium?
Yeah, you guys want to go to the podium?
All right, we can hear you now.
Don't know.
Can we leave our stuff here
Yeah.
and come back?
Yes, yes.
We can hear you now.
Good evening. My name is Ray Miller. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Georgetown. We have 5 different service areas within Public Works. But this evening, we're going to talk to you about our environmental services program and really focus in on our household hazardous waste program and the city's transfer station that is our hub for solid waste and recycling collection within the city. So right now, to talk about household hazardous waste, I'm going to turn it over to our environmental services coordinator, Teresa Chapman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ray. As you heard, my name is Teresa Chapman, and I am the Environmental Services Coordinator at the City of Georgetown. And tonight, we're going to talk about household hazardous waste. Now, in the Environmental Services Department, calls about household hazardous waste is our #1 call. First, residents call and ask, is this household hazardous waste? For example, if someone has a bottle of Windex, they say, is it hazardous waste? And then the second question, what should I do with it? So we're going to talk about both of those things tonight. How do you know what it is? What do you do with it? And then we're going to talk briefly about what Georgetown is doing to address these needs. Okay, so if you Google household hazardous waste, you're going to get a lot of technical definitions like this one from the EPA. And you see things like, is it reactive? Can it explode? Is it toxic? And we do worry about all of those things, especially when people have these items in their homes. We worry about human safety. We worry about clean water. We worry about protecting our resources and our landfills. But even with this definition, people still don't know, what do I have? Is it hazardous waste? So Georgetown is using a much simpler definition. And we decided that we would use, if you purchase an item over the counter for your household, and you look at that label and it is marked caution, warning, if it has the skull and crossbones on it, any type of cautionary warning on that label, it is likely household hazardous waste. Now, I would like to emphasize that it is the product and not the container that is hazardous. So that same bottle of Windex that some, like a resident has, the Windex itself is hazardous waste. But if the bottle is empty and it is dry and there's no product in that bottle, you can then recycle that bottle in your container as plastic. But how do you know if you have household hazardous waste? Look at the label, look for a cautionary warning, and it likely is hazardous waste that we need to collect and dispose of properly. Your options. We're going to talk about this in just a minute, but Georgetown is in the process of developing a household hazardous waste program for city residents. But Williamson County also has 2 collection events, one in the spring, one in the fall, and residents can dispose of their items at no charge at both of these collection events. If you check recycledgeorgetown.org, the link and contact information to Williamson County is on the website so that you can check and see when those upcoming dates are. Additionally, the City of Round Rock has a collection event on the first Wednesday of every month. Anyone is welcome to go over there and use their facility. It will cost you $40. And then the final option is in North Austin, Duke's Junk Recycling will also accept your household hazardous waste and will cost you $45 there. But all of that contact information for the county, for the City of Round Rock, Duke's Junk Recycling, their phone numbers, their addresses, it's all there at recyclegeorgetown.org. So please check that website for information. And then we just want to talk quickly about the City of Georgetown. We are in the process of developing a household hazardous waste program for residents. We had 2 events, one in October and one in November of 2020. Anyone who was there at the October event knows we had an overwhelmingly positive response. Lots and lots of residents showed up We had a few challenges that we need to address, and we did. We came back in November of 2020, and that event went, I'll say, a lot smoother. So we feel like we have a good program. We have a good idea of how that needs to happen. We are in the process of planning more events for 2021. We're waiting on some approvals from the state and from a hazardous material company that manages those items for us before those dates are finalized. But again, if you check recycle.georgetown.org, those dates will be posted there. In October and November, just those two events, both on a Wednesday, both from 3 to 6 p.m., the city collected more than 45,000 pounds of material. And out of that 45,000 pounds, our number one product was paint. 20,000 pounds of paint was collected at those two events. So good job, Georgetown. We're recycling and disposing of your household hazardous waste materials properly. We'll have a lot more coming up this year. So thank you very much. Y'all have a good evening. And I'm going to turn this over to Ray Miller now, Director of Public Works, to talk about our transfer station.
Thank you, Teresa. So as we're talking about household hazardous waste and just our solid waste collection in general, right now the city has a contract with Texas Disposal Systems, or TDS, that services within the city limits and some areas outside of our city limits. And you may ask, where do those collection trucks go to? Well, they go to the city of Georgetown's transfer station. So I'll briefly talk about where and what is the transfer station, the fact that we need a new transfer station, what is being proposed, and then how do we pay for this new transfer station? So our current transfer station, which will also be the location of a newer and rebuilt transfer station, is located at 250 W.L. Walden Road behind the animal shelter. It is the central hub for our solid waste collections within the city limits. And as I mentioned, a few areas outside of the city limits. And the transfer station is literally that. It is where the collection trucks go to transfer waste into much larger long haul vehicles that take the waste down to the TDS solid waste site, which is actually located in Creedmoor, Texas. That's their landfill site. So if you would imagine if we had the collection trucks going all the way down to the landfill in Creedmoor, that's a 90-mile round trip, which would drastically increase our residential and even our commercial collection rates for solid waste. So the current transfer station was opened in 1984. Next to the transfer station is our old city landfill. That is part of our contract with TDS, that they manage that landfill and the old landfill and keep it covered and meet the requirements of our Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. It is currently at capacity and is at times over capacity. It needs a lot of improvements. A lot of the areas that within the transfer station are unpaved, and the dump location is uncovered where they dump into the longer haul vehicles and can only handle one truck at a time and only one stream of waste. Means it's not really set up for us to be able to do a good recycling program to dump glass or dump aluminum cans in the same area. So this is just a rendering of what is being proposed. You can see the new building. As I mentioned earlier, the current site is not covered. But this will have a much larger building that is covered. The collection vehicles will be able to go inside, and it'll be tall enough to where they can actually lift and dump into different large container trucks that will be located underneath. And you can see all of the paved area or improved surface, which again, as I mentioned earlier, the current site is mostly unpaved, and it can create dust and create some very muddy situations at times, and especially for residents who may go there to drop off limbs or other waste that they've collected from their home. And here's just a look if you were to come into the transfer station. So this is highly elevated. In the back, you could see there to the right of the building, there are some openings. That is where the long haul or dump vehicles will be located. And you can see how the collection trucks will be able to go inside, lift undercover, and then come back out. The new station will be better and more efficient for operations. As I mentioned, right now the trucks have to wait one at a time to dump. Provides for much needed capacity to handle future growth. Would allow for expanding or enhancing some of our services, recycling, maybe adding composting, and maybe even an education element to the transfer station. Better separation of the customer drop-off and collection vehicles that right now they currently intermingle quite a bit on site. The estimated cost of the entire site is about $10 million, or that's what the city is planning for, and it would need to be bond funded. Funding or payment for this bond would actually come from our sanitation rates. In October, we did some increases to all of our solid waste rates. I didn't show commercial on here because of the complexity and the different variations of our solid waste rates based on collection, amount of collection and size of containers. But this is just a look at the standard residential 96-gallon cart. And we added in our TDS contract, they're allowed to do a rate increase. And so there's a 1.26% rate increase. We added in $1 to the residential rate to help with the transfer station and what will be the rate payment for the bond, and then a 12-cent to the residential rate for household hazardous waste. And if you look at the scale there, you can see the first yellow line is our current, or was the current Georgetown TDS rate. And then when we added in the rate for the transfer station, it went up to $20.80 to $20.80. And then looking at the 12 cents again for the household hazardous waste collection program, just under $21 at $20.92. Currently, it's under design and construction plans have been submitted to TCEQ for their approval. They have to permit the site and approve our plans. As of January 19th, the plans will have gone through their first round of review with the City of Georgetown's Planning Department and Development Review process. And after that first round, and after we receive comments from the Planning Department, and those are addressed, then we may be able to start to submit to the City of Georgetown Building and Inspection Department for actual plan reviews of the building and the site. Possible spring of 21 bidding for construction, with construction possibly to begin in the summer, and estimated up to 12 months, but that will be weather depending for that. And there is, if you have any questions, you can submit there. And since this is the end of our presentation, I'd like to announce the winner. Francine McDonald, you have won a gift bag for the Georgetown Goodies from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, along with a one-year pass to Gary Park. Stop by City Hall during regular business hours and bring your ID to claim your prize. Congratulations and thank you for participating. Now I'm going to turn it over to a transportation item, our current mobility bond, and taking the lead on that will be Bridget Weber. She's going to talk about the mobility bond and where we are with that. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Ray and Teresa. I appreciate that introduction. As Ray said, I am Bridget Weber, and I'm going to be giving you a high-level overview of our potential mobility bond that is anticipated for this upcoming May 2021 election. And so before I jump in, I just wanted to note that we do have more information on our website at bonds.georgetown.org, as this will just be a high-level overview, and you can find more details on our website. So we know as our city is experiencing rapid growth, we know that transportation is a top concern for our citizens here in Georgetown, and it is continually listed and cited as a top priority for our citizens. And because of that, we've actually had 2 roadway bond projects in our recent past, one in 2008 and one in 2015. And the status of these projects from the 2008 and 2015 roadway bonds are that we are expected to be substantially complete with these projects by 2022. And sorry about that. And so with that, and because with that project status, and because we are still experiencing rapid growth in Georgetown, our city council directed us to put together a bond program targeting the May 2021 election. And so our team has been hard at work since then to do that. So the first thing that we did was establish our purpose for the mobility bond and what we wanted to accomplish with this initiative, and that is to advance Georgetown's connectivity and safety by increasing the capacity of our roadway network, by improving intersections and building connections with our sidewalks and bicycle facilities, and also coordinating with other planned transportation through our partner agencies so that we can accelerate these transportation projects, the delivery of them to Georgetown. And so public engagement has been a top priority for our team here for this project. And so since day one, it has been a top priority. So we have had a couple different opportunities for the public to get engaged with this project. The first was a citizen advisory committee. The city council appointed the city citizen advisory committee in July, and it was a 16-member advisory committee. And they worked from August through January of this year to review and evaluate all the potential projects that we need in Georgetown and to provide recommendations to our city council. And so we're really thankful for their service and their guidance to our staff and to our council. We also, in addition to our citizen advisory committee, we had a couple community-wide opportunities for the community to provide public input on the priorities of the transportation projects to be included. And so we had a couple different online surveys hosted last summer and in the fall. And then we also hosted a digital town hall. So the feedback that we gathered from these public engagement opportunities was used by our citizen committee and by city council as they are developing their recommendations for the potential mobility bond. And so just this month, as I mentioned, our citizen advisory committee presented their recommendations to council earlier this month on January 12th. And then we also had a meeting this week with city council on January 26th. And so the Citizen Advisory Committee recommended a list of the top 10 projects to the City Council for their consideration. And from there, City Council has narrowed down the project list just a little bit. But you'll see on your screen that this is the potential roadway projects that our City Council is considering for the bond package. And the first 6 of these projects was included in the committee's recommendations. And so those are Southeast Interloop, Shell Road, Williams Drive, D.B. Wood, Leander Road, and Austin Avenue bridges. And then the final 3 roadway projects are what we're considering and talking about as partner projects. And those are Rock Ride, Sam Houston, Wilco Corridor, and Westinghouse Road. Those last 2 projects were also part of the Williamson County bond from 2019 that has already passed. And so we're leveraging partner funding through those 2 projects. And so I'm not going to go into the detail about the specific scopes of these projects this evening since we're on a tighter time frame, but there is more information about the scopes of each one of these projects on our website that you can find. In addition to roadway projects, we also anticipate that the bond package will include project allocations for sidewalks, our bicycle facilities, intersection projects, and transportation technology. And the recommendation from our Citizen Advisory Committee to Council was a total of $7 million for these allocations. And so again, this is just preliminary, and we do expect that our council will make a final decision on the roadway projects and these allocations at their upcoming meeting on February 9th. So the next steps, as I just mentioned, February 9th is our next council meeting, where we expect the council to finalize the project list and possibly call the election and setting it for May 1st, 2021. And once the election is called, our team will work hard to educate our citizens and residents about what is included in the bond from February through April, up until the election date on May 1st. So that is the conclusion of my presentation for this evening. Again, if you would like more information about the process until this point, or about the scopes of the proposed projects, you can find that on our website at bonds.georgetown.org. And before we move on to our next speaker, I am going to announce the prize winner for this session, and that is Randy Haven, who entered the drawing via Zoom. So congratulations, Randy. You have won a gift bag of Georgetown goodies from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, along with a one-year pass to Gary Park. So you can stop by City Hall during regular business hours and bring your ID to claim your prize. So again, congratulations. And at this point, I am going to pass it on to our next speaker, who is our Police Chief, Wayne Nero. And he is going to talk with you about the community initiative. Thank you.
Chief Nero, we can hear you. We just can't see you.
We're almost there. Well, I think we're almost there.
Yeah, I think
Would you like to present? We can see the presentation now.
we're good.
Okay. So my name is Wayne Nero. I am the police chief for the city of Georgetown, Texas. And this is just an overview of our community initiative. So the community initiative we've started about 5 years ago or so, and it really is just a strategic framework for how we look at community engagement, how we create relationships with the community. I think we'd all say that relationships between police and the community are really important, but the question is always who specifically. It's not like as a police chief, I can go knock on 80,000 doors and just say, hey, my name is Wayne, I want to create a relationship. We have only so much proactive time, and what we do with that proactive time really needs to be intentional and strategic to get the impact that we want. So this is how we, after some dialogue, looked and broke our community into 7 different stakeholder groups where we want to create meaningful relationships where there's a return on that investment. And you can see those 7 here in the diagram. Micro communities, while Georgetown is one community of 80,000 people roughly, it's broken down into roughly, a multitude of micro communities, what we call. Sun City is very unique. It's very different from Berry Creek. Berry Creek is very different from Old Town. Old Town is very different from San Jose. And all of those communities have different needs and different styles and different leadership. So those are all things we want to pay attention to as a police department, because what they may need from us is going to be different and unique. Our youth is another stakeholder group, and that could range from ISD to charter schools to youth sports programs to youth groups. Our business community is broken down into several sectors, from banking to retail to fast food. Our seniors, we have probably twice as much of a senior population as a normal or an average community of the size of 50 to 100,000. Our media, our faith-based groups, and our social services. So it's really just a framework for how we create relationships. And the goal is sort of for the police department to kind of be a conduit through different programs and through just participation in creating those relationships and bringing some of those relationships from the other stakeholder groups all together just for a common purpose. So on the left, you see the intent of the strategic framework is really to build relationships, meaningful relationships where we can have dialogue, the better the relationship is, the more open we can talk about things, and that leads to a very good recipe for problem solving. So that's the gist of what the strategic framework is for how we want to engage the community. Examples of that, just in a few of those, I mean, we give you a bunch, but neighborhoods, the way we do directed patrols is part of that. We have National Night Out would be something that would fall under neighborhoods. For youth, we do the Chase the Chief this year. We'll have our 9th annual Chase the Chief, which is kind of hard to believe. It's going to be virtual this year due to COVID. We've had Law Enforcement Field Day, which is where we bring area youth from Central Texas, from high schools, to our police facility for the day. And we invite all types of other law enforcement stakeholders from federal, state, and local agencies, and have displays for kids just who are curious and in law enforcement programs in school to spend the day with us and just learn what we do and engage in that. And then we have Blue Santa for our seniors. We have Silver Shields. The businesses were involved in Leadership Georgetown and some of the other chamber events and Youth Leadership Georgetown. So it's really just looking through the lens of those groups and how we create relationships and how we can get involved in programs is really what the community initiative is all about. Then more recently, last year, probably about 18 months ago, we looked at how we can kind of take this concept to the next level and get more community involvement. So we established a community initiative Chiefs Advisory Task Force, which was really just made up of about 20 plus community leaders. It's a very diverse group that as the chief over 10 years, it's just people from those stakeholder groups that I have created relationships with, done work with, just to bring them together to share what we're doing with this initiative, ask for feedback, sort of, answer questions, all the national narrative of things going on and concerns people have. It was just a great opportunity for me as a chief to have dialogue with community leaders about what their concerns are, what our concerns are as a police department, the things that we've been working on and why, because it's, if we're not telling our story, nobody else is really telling our story. So it branched into some very good dialogue. We've had some listen and learn sessions with that group, just discussing, some of the contemporary issues and then kind of telling our story of what we're doing with regard to those contemporary issues and concerns from that group. And then going in the next phases, COVID has kind of slowed us down because it's kind of very hard to get together and it's very hard to do a lot of collaborative work online. I think we've all kind of experienced that. It's a little more challenging, but we try to make do. But the next steps is really to take that overarching advisory group and create subcommittees within these stakeholder groups, from neighborhoods to youth to businesses to seniors, and pull in other leadership from the community in those areas and conduct more listen and learn sessions and see how the community wants to partner with the police department to develop this initiative is sort of where we're headed next. And one thing that was born out of that and working with the city managers, we have a website that we're about to turn on, which will be for the community initiative, and there'll be a transparency section of that webpage, which helps us answer, the most contemporary, frequently asked questions and concerns, ranging from our policies on body cameras to use of force, to all of that kind of stuff. So we're excited about that, and we're expecting that in the next month or two, we'll have that live. So that's really what our community initiative is all about. It's really just about building relationships and trying to put ourselves in a position where we can listen and hear from our community. So with that, there's the information. The Q&A is coming up next with the city manager and the mayor, and it's time to announce the prize winner for this session. It's going to be Tom McCabe. Tom, congratulations. You won this drawing via Zoom, and you have won a gift bag full of goodies from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, along with a one-year pass to Gary Park. Tom, you can stop by City Hall during regular business hours. Bring your ID to claim your prize. Congratulations, and thanks for participating.
Okay, we're going to start the Q&A in just a second. Excuse me. just get on the right slide here and we'll go ahead and start the Q&A. I really appreciate everyone tuning in through Facebook and through Zoom. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate you engaging with us. And I just can't tell you enough how committed we are to make sure that we are making sure that we're updating you and answering questions as much as we can, even during some of these limited times where it's hard for us to be together. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start the Q&A. On the screen is just a reminder of the way in which you can connect with us and submit your questions. The mayor and I will go ahead and answer the questions, and then we look forward to that. And then don't forget, we're going to do the grand prize announcement here at the end. So the first question is, and it appropriately so, we are also eager for Costco. Can you share any details on the timing? So the mayor mentioned during the presentation that they are, per our economic development agreement, they have until 2024 to open. But based on the growth that we're experiencing, I would be surprised if it doesn't happen before then. Unfortunately, when we've asked them specifically, or when the media has asked them when they plan to open, the answer Costco has given us is, if you really want to know what's happening on the site and when we're going to open, just regularly drive by the location. And when you see construction and then you see a grand opening sign, you'll know that we're about to open. I hope we can share more information soon on that, but that's what we've heard officially from Costco. It is going to be at the northwest corner of Lakeway and I-35. All right, the next question we have is, any details available on expansion of Shell Road north of Williams and the light at Verde Vista? So first off on the signal, the design has already started on the signal at Verde Vista and at Shell Road. We anticipate that we'll bid the project out this spring and start construction over the summer. And so we'll continue to keep you all updated on that, but I would anticipate by the end of summer that the signal will be installed, or early fall, the signal will be fully installed. As it relates to the expansion of Shell Road, that is definitely one of the projects that the council is considering for the mobility bond. In fact, the list that they were looking at the last council meeting, which was on the 26th, and you can go online and watch that video if you want. It did include the expansion of Shell Road to the end of basically the village development. And that would include a widening to a 4-lane section. Next question is, with limited water resources, why doesn't Georgetown require new home and commercial construction to have zero-scape landscaping to reduce water consumption? Zero-scape is an option. It's not a requirement, but I can tell you that we do have a certain plant requirements that have to be met. So they have to be water resistant. And there are also limitations and design standards on new irrigation that's installed. I will say that we also offer, just as a point of note for any existing customer, we also offer a once-a-year water rebate so that you can have someone come out and take a look, have a landscaper take a look at your yard, or your irrigation contractor take a look at your yard to evaluate and to make sure that you're saving as much water as possible. Doing things like making sure the heads are appropriately positioned, that you're not overwatering your yard. And so I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. And we're going to continue to push on water conservation because we agree that it's an important component. The next question is definitely an interesting one, and one we can't share. I mean, can't really because we're not the direct decision maker, but we can give you an update on what we know, which is what will happen to the historic jailhouse. So the historic jailhouse is located just adjacent to Austin Avenue. Believe it'd be south of 5th Street, or just north of 5th Street, excuse me, across the street from 309 Coffee. The county recently has indicated an interest to sell the property. That whole block is fully owned by the county. The jail is an historic property, so there have to be preservation efforts by anyone that would purchase it. But there has been discussion by the county about selling it for private development based on the growth of downtown. I know that there will be a lot of people interested in doing a really interesting project. You know, just as a reminder, we have historic downtown guidelines that have to be followed. We have the Historic Architectural Review Commission that would review any plans that are done on the site. And we have a downtown zoning that places limitations on different types of use. So any project would be following that process. But we'll be working with the county, tracking it with them closely, and really are excited about what the potential could be on that property. All right, the next question is, It's taken over 12 years, or it's taking over 12 years for voters approved 2008 bonds to get to phase 2 of the San Gabriel Park. And there's still phase 3 and 4 to go that won't be completed until 2028. What is the city's hope that West Side Park will ever be built before 2035? So there's a lot packed into that question. So let me try and unpack it a couple of steps at a time. First of all, it's important to note that the 2008 bond program was approved by voters, different projects on there, transportation and park projects. There are a number of different parks projects that have been implemented since 2008. But also you have to know that to recognize there was a significant recession that impacted all of our finances and impact city finances. And so I know there was a period of time in the city where there were limitations on the ability to sell bonds due to just the economic downturn. However, when we recovered from that, I know that the city moved forward on different projects, including the San Gabriel Park. So you're correct, we've finished phase 1 and phase 2 of San Gabriel Park, which are really the sections that are most closely connected to the San Gabriel River. There is phase 3 and 4. 3 is planned as a part of our 5-year five-year outlook on our capital improvement plan. The council reviews that on an annual basis, so they'll look at those projects, various projects, including parks projects, each spring. And so be on the lookout for that during the budget cycle. I can tell you the council has been working to manage how much debt is sold each year to be conscious of the property tax rate. And so that's why it's been phased out over time. I know that the next phase, phase 3, are the festival grounds. And I know that's at this time in the 5-year outlook plan in the next few years. And then phase 4 is further out than that. And that would be to address areas around the baseball fields. We do have a master plan. You can go online and look at the master plan for San Gabriel Park. Then the other question was about West Side Park. So just to give you a little bit of orientation, West Side Park is on the west side of Georgetown. You actually can't get to it from a roadway right now. It is adjacent to Shell Road near Shell Spur. And actually there's a development that is being built that will actually provide a connection to the park. And so that'll be a roadway that'll be able to provide connection to the park. The mayor mentioned that we're doing a updated parks master plan, a recreation open space master plan. And I know that West Side Park will be a big piece of the planning for what's going to occur there through the master plan. So I'd encourage you to participate in that. I'm not aware, and we do not have any specific plans about timing of when the improvements would be made to West Side Park. I'm glad and personally think it's great that the city was forward thinking and bought land in that area, knowing that there was not a regional or community level park in that part of town. So we'll be working on that from a planning standpoint. All right, the next question we have is, and I promised the mayor's next to me, we just divided up a little bit that I would handle some of the capital project questions. And I know there are a couple questions coming up here in a second that I know he's going to participate in. So he is right here. The next question is actually related to HEB, and it's status of the HEB planned at 195 and Berry Creek. So HEB, if y'all know HEB well, or the way in which they do their planning for stores, is they will buy land and kind of plan for long range in the future. So they might own a piece of land for a very long period of time before any construction of a HEB is done. So they do own the land at the southwest corner of 195 and Berry Creek, or well, southwest corner of 195 and I-35 near Berry Creek Drive. And we're not aware of any plans for them doing construction. Obviously, we'd be excited and happy to have an additional HEB at that location. And so we welcome that, and we'd welcome to work with them through that process. All right, the next question is, the water issue in the summer is always a concern. How do we plan for all the new development in the face of what looks like our ongoing drought and still be able to serve residents? And so I've covered that before, but I'll just reiterate some of those points. We have what's called a water CCN. It's a water territory, and we are required to serve properties within that area. We've seen significant growth, but we've also had significant growth from us being able to treat water capacity. I think we're always, not always, but I think that's going to be a challenge for us over the next several years. We are making significant investments. We have a lake water treatment plant expansion underway right now. We're actually getting ready to start constructing. We're doing design right now, and we'll be constructing a water treatment plant on the south side of the lake. And we will, obviously, that plan and the plan that we have and the way in which we look at water usage has to be in line with also the conditions that we find ourselves in, whether it be drought or other kind of conditions. And so we will just continue to manage through that and be able to make sure that we are adding capacity and we are also, I think it's important to know, we're also looking for new resources as well. That's part of our evaluation, is look for new water resources. Because that is something we'll need to bring online based on kind of current or what we anticipate to be future growth patterns in the 2040s, early 2040s timeframe. Next question is related to transportation. Is there anything planned for the widening or renovation of Westinghouse from 1460 to CM 110? There are no marked median lines most of the way, and the edges are sometimes dangerous when forced over due to oncoming traffic. Thank you for fixing the recent potholes. Well, good. Well, you're welcome for fixing the recent potholes. We actually submitted that as a project for the county, Williamson County bond initiative. So that bond initiative passed, and we are actually need to put in our local match for that. So we have plans for that to be constructed to do just the area that you're just talking about, because of the significant growth that you've seen in the condition of the roadway. So east of 1460 Westinghouse out to 110. And so I would anticipate, based on current council discussion, that our local participation into that project will be a part of this upcoming BOB program. So we'll match our dollars with the county dollars to be able to do that project together. So that is in the works. All right, I'm gonna give the easiest question to the mayor. Just joking. I know that as he ran for mayor, that he received this question quite a bit. So I know he has a well-rehearsed and a very good answer, which is regarding Suddenlink. So Suddenlink badly needs competition. Is there some way our city can encourage competition to come into Georgetown?
Thank you, David. David's absolutely right. In the over 1 year that I spent running for mayor, I probably heard this question, 2 or 3 times a day. And I realized the community's frustration with our internet service. I can tell you 2 things. One, despite what you may hear, the city of Georgetown has not granted Suddenlink a monopoly to operate internet services within the city. Suddenlink is a private company that has its own infrastructure in the ground throughout the city and is able to provide internet services to the community through their equipment. We don't own that equipment. We don't control who gets to use that equipment. And so right now you're correct. There's no competition or very little competition for Suddenlink in the community. And we have heard the community's desire for the city to do everything in its power to encourage that. I can tell you that we are speaking to many different internet providers and trying to find ways that we can make our city more accessible to them. And we've had some interest because they have heard the complaints from the community. We're one of the only city councils in the state that has ever passed a resolution disapproving of its internet provider, despite the fact that resolution really didn't do much from a legal standpoint. It certainly sent a message to Suddenlink and to our state legislature about the problem that we're experiencing here in Georgetown. Also, very recently, City Council just approved an agreement between the City of Georgetown and AT&T for mobile 5G service. While that is not going to fix your internet problem, it is one step along the road to new technology that could bring more competition into the community. I can tell you that the folks at AT&T are very excited to come into the community and help get our cell service and data service even more shored up than it is. And that they hope that that will lead to them being able to provide internet service in the near future as that technology progresses, and it's doing so very rapidly right now. And you have spoken on this issue. We have heard you, and we're going to do everything in our power to correct this. But we want to be very open and honest with you and tell you that we don't have a magic wand we can wave to fix this problem immediately. One other thing too, I wanted to touch on David's comments about our water needs. And I can tell you that we've I heard that question many times over the last year, and realize the frustration with not being able to water your lawns as much as you want to, whenever you want to. And we want to be able to address that issue. That's one of those pain points of growth that needs to be addressed. And I can tell you that not just for the city of Georgetown, but on a regional, countywide level, we're in discussions with all the different various factions that have control over water, that need water. And we're looking for different resources, whether that's groundwater or surface water, that can allow us to provide this service to you at the lowest cost possible. And so we hope to make more strides this year in that area. And I'll turn it back to David.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is, why does it take so long to finish bond projects? You mentioned that there was still a project or two from the 2008 bond program. So let me clarify a few things. So yes, it does take a long time to get bond projects done. It just takes a long time to get some of these major infrastructure projects done from a design and construction standpoint. However, on the 2008 bond program, we have completed all the transportation projects have been identified to move forward by the council. There's one project, Berry Creek Drive, that did not move forward. And that really is mainly because in looking at the overall capital projects that are pending to be done, it was deemed that was not the highest priority. However, I can tell you that all the other transportation construction projects have been done that are in 100% the city's control. From the 2015 bond program, that was supposed to be a 10-year bond program. And we are actually just started the design on the last construction project in that 2015 transportation bond. And that's DB Woods. This to expand DB Woods from 29 north to Oak Ridge to a 4-lane roadway. And so all the other projects that we mentioned that are transportation projects that include construction in the 2015 bond program have already been initiated as well. And so, and the council's kind of foresight, knowing that we need the traffic and transportation is definitely one of the highest concerns in our community based on our growth. They want to go ahead and move forward to the next bond program so that as we finish up construction on some of these projects, we're already ready to go to start construction on the next round of projects. So appreciate your patience with that, and know that we'd like these projects to hit the ground and open up sooner. Next question is about any chance of installing a right turn lane on Williams Drive at Wildwood as you were going to HEB from Sun City. It's very dangerous trying to make a legal right turn there with the impatient people making right turns from the roadway. We do have some dollars. I don't believe there's a specific project plan for that at that time, but I can tell you that we evaluate our intersections on an annual basis, and we have intersection improvement dollars to be able to move forward and make certain improvements. Examples of the improvements that are underway right now, I've mentioned the other one right now is a new signal at Shell and Verde Vista. We also have a signal at Estrella on Williams Drive that's under design and moving towards construction. And then we have a signal at Rock Ride and Interloop that is under design and will start construction this spring. And so those were all evaluated by council last spring and moved forward on. So we evaluate those intersections on an annual basis, and I'm sure that intersection will be one that we'll be looking at. And just encourage you to stay engaged on that. All right, the next question is another HEB question. So do you know the timeline for the HEB that I heard was coming off the Interloop? So yes, y'all are very informed. You've heard about 2 properties that are owned by HEB, but unfortunately, Interloop is in the same situation in terms of the HEB property there. We're not aware of any plans at this time for HEB to start construction. I think it's important to know, and obviously I don't work for HEB, and I'm not in charge of their planning. No one from the city is. But, as they look at their stores, they're also looking at nearby area stores. And one of the challenges or issues that we see in the southeast quadrant of Georgetown is that, and we know, I'm sure that you do, because you're going to go to the closest HEB, and sometimes the closest HEB, or probably a lot of times, is actually in Round Rock. And so HEB, they don't see the way they see their territories. They don't necessarily see city limit lines. They just see the catchment areas of their different HEB stores and are seeing how growth patterns are occurring. So I know that they're watching growth in Georgetown closely. They're watching growth in the southeast Georgetown. They've indicated that. And once we know of any activity by HEB, we'll report it as quickly as we can in terms of new locations at both 195 and on the inner loop. All right, so that is it. We are out of questions. And so I tell you what, thank you very much for everybody who participated tonight. We really appreciate you being involved, asking questions. We consider it a privilege to be able to participate in this. And with that, I will announce the grand prize winner. And congratulations to Barbara White, who entered the drawing via Zoom. You have got a gift bag of goodies from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So it looks a lot like this. And then you have also won, on top of that, a one-year pass to Gary Park. And on top of that, you've won a one-year family membership to the Georgetown Recreation Center. So stop by City Hall during regular business hours and bring your ID to claim your prize. Congratulations again. And thanks for participating. And Mayor, I will hand it to you just in case you want to say a few last words.
Sure. Again, I want to thank all of the hard work that went into putting this on tonight. Your staff has done an amazing job of delivering information to the community. And we want to continue to do so and continue to interact with you and engage with you. And we appreciate those of you who took time out of your evening to listen to us and to ask questions and engage with us. We really appreciate that. I can tell you that it's an honor to be able to serve this community. Thank you for that opportunity. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that all 7 of your council members feel the exact same way. And I can tell you that they are dedicated individuals who put a lot of time and thought and effort into running this city. And the same goes for your city staff. Could not ask for a better group of people to partner with, to serve this community that we all love so much. 2020 was certainly a difficult year, but it's 2021. And so we look forward to coming out of these difficult times and joining together with you and rolling up our sleeves and go to work to make Georgetown the same wonderful community that we all chose as our home. Thank y'all very much and have a good evening.